All right, guys, welcome back to the shack. Today I'm going to be talking about a little project that I've been working on for you guys that have the WeCreat Lumos. Now, a lot of you may be familiar with some of the jigs and things and fixtures that I make for machines. I make them for all my machines because doing bulk items, fixtures, jigs, whatever you want to call them, they're a real time saver. It allows you to place one object and engrave it and then just repeat without having to take that time to do precise movements and stuff and reframing. So it's just a big time saver, especially at events. And if you couple the correct machine, the correct software, and the correct fixtures, and you take those to an event, you're going to increase your productivity and be able to turn out a lot more money in shorter amount of time using your laser at events. And so that's what we're going to be covering today. I'm going to show you my setup that I've come up with for the Lumos to make it compatible for what I expect from my machines while I'm at events. So stick around and we're going to go over it. All right, guys, so to just lay a little groundwork for the conversation, I like to take machines with me when I go to events. I do a lot of pet tags and small items and stuff like that at events. Now, you don't make a lot of money off of these. You're looking at $5, $10 items, but the faster you can turn them out, the more money you can make. And at events, I have found that having people at your table draws other folks in, because a lot of folks, they're interested in what's going on at this table. Why are these people standing around? So that couple of minutes that it takes for me to engrave and customize something, I also find that it kind of helps draw those people that are just leisurely walking by, trying to not make eye contact. It helps to draw those guys into your booth and can lead to even more sales. So some of the things that I find at events that sell really good are things like these little bottle openers that are bamboo. Those you can get off of Amazon, bamboo ink pens, of course, keychains, and my all-time favorite, pet tags. Especially if you're in a park where there's lots of pets, cats, dogs, whatever the case may be. I would say more, usually it's going to be the dogs. You're going to have the little bone name tags, if found, call this number tags, or just whatever. It doesn't really matter what they put on it as long as you're engraving things. And so I sell a lot of those as well. Another thing that I like to do is like sports and athletic events. I'm getting into those now. Whether you're engraving names on baseball gloves, bats, whatever the case may be, or you're doing customized softballs or baseballs. All of these jobs are going to be better with the proper fixtures. And so you've seen in the past, and I'll try to share some pictures of my setup that I use at events. I've used other machines, but when it comes to the events, this little guy hasn't got to see any action yet, but it's because I got it just a little bit after our last event. But I've taken the kits that I've tested with other machines and other softwares, and I've modified it to work with this guy. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through some of the things that I've got made. And of course, as always, it will be in my Etsy shop. I like to try to help you guys by providing you with the means to make jigs with an affordable price. So you're looking at $5 to get these things. You'll make your money back on the first day of using them. And the thing that I like above the 3D printed stuff, nothing against 3D printed stuff, I do that a lot myself, but most folks that do lasers have at least another machine that you can use to cut these out. I use these old pieces of scrap like this that I use from projects. I use these to make my jigs, and so it's not really costing me any materials. It's a lot faster than 3D printing them, and if I do mess one up, I just grab another sheet of material from my scrap pile and cut out a handful of the jigs to replace these. So that's why everybody's like, why don't you just 3D print them? To me, it's faster, more economical for me to use wood, cardboard, whatever you want to use. I mean, if you really got a bunch of extra laying around, you could use black acrylic. It really does not matter as long as it holds the item still. So let me just kind of show you how it works and we'll go through it. All right, so with this setup and the way that it works, like I said, I've used my other machine, which has almost the identical setup at countless events, and it's really, really efficient. It takes you longer to do the software setup side of things than it does the hardware. So if someone comes up and they want a pet tag, all right, I'm just going to take this pet tag right here. This is the jig for it. That's the little space that it sits in. And we're just going to drop that into this little recess that is built into the machine. I'm going to take my blank, drop it into that hole right there. And then on the computer, I'm going to open up the file for this and line everything up that way. And with the way the WeCreat software works, you have all these different canvases that you can scroll through. So by only having 2 files to use at this event, I can switch from, okay, I'm through with the dog tag. Now somebody's wanting something put on a business card. I can go ahead and swap that over, and there I am. The software setup is going to take longer than this swap. All right, guys, so one thing that I do want to point out before we get started with the video is the blanks that I'm using are typically from Amazon, and I will be including links to those blanks down below in the description. But a little waiver here, I have built these files based on the blanks that I have received. So I have found that occasionally whoever manufactures them gets a little happy and they make them a little bigger, a little smaller, or whatever. There may be some minor adjustments that could be required. I don't see it very often with a lot of the leather stuff and the anodized metal stuff, but occasionally with the wooden things, there are slight differences. So just know that I have done the best that I can by allowing a little bit of margin of error on some of these things without making them slack. But if you do get a batch of the blanks and they're a little bit larger than what the files are designed for, that's probably because these blanks are cheap, affordable, whatever you want to call it, and they're not deadly consistent. So it's one of those things that you kind of have to work around when you're working with those real cheap blanks. So let's get started. All right, guys, so step 1 of this process is going to be the first thing you're going to need to do is cut out the files that you need for your jig setup. Now, this is a 2-layered project, so for each file that you want to do, you're going to need to get at least 1 base, and then you're going to need at least that item file to go with that. So you're going to have 2 files, one for the base and then the top for the basically the recess for the object to go in. I have the text on here in Lightburn, so you could turn the text on and burn it as you're cutting them out. Basically, those are just kind of on there for just keeping up with what is what and which one goes with what file. So once you cut these 2 shapes out, then you can move it over into WeCreat software and line it up using the file that goes with it. Now, the way I've got it set up in Lightburn is you have this one massive Lightburn file here that you can use, or I also have a art library that contains all the parts needed to do this set as well. So you can even do, like, let's say if you didn't want to do it using this file, you wanted to use library, you could just bring yourself a base over here, and then you could get, like, say, the pet tag and bring it in. And now you've got the 2 pieces that you need to cut. You will need to know your own settings, of course, to be able to do that. But that's the options for Lightburn. I also have exported this as a SVG, so you can use SVG if you use some other software other than Lightburn or WeCreat. So, for instance, if you have an X-Tool machine or something like that, or Glowforge, and you need the SVG, you have that also. So the other method, of course, is going to be over here in the Make It software. You can cut these out if you have one of the WeCreat's larger machines. All you got to do is make sure that you have all of the canvases showing here, and each canvas has different parts. Like if you just need a bunch of the back pieces, the bases, here they are. You've got a few of the keychains ones here, some other ones there, and then just like each screen basically is, different ones. You will have to assign your settings for these as far as the cut and the engrave. So, whatever your machine is, make sure you go in and set those. Once you get everything cut out and you're bringing them over into the Lumos in WeCreat software, and you open up the Lumos, which is, I'm connected to mine now. Once you get this file in here, the file is going to be like this. So, like, let me swap it over. So, like, this is the ball holder. When the focus is set the way that it's supposed to be, the graphics will be fairly close to lined up. But like I said, I always frame first before you send the file. So it's like right here. I'm lined up. I'm focused on the top of the ball. So for alignment, I would use a frame. You can see the text down there. This ball is really, really thick, so that's going to cause a little bit of a distortion. But for framing up and getting it lined up on the ball, this is how I would do it. I would have it set up to be exactly there. Matter of fact, let me rotate this ball a little bit. So I've got the ball rotated, and I'm going to refresh that and get me a nice little image here. And what we'll do is I'll put a quick little graphic on there. We'll just put an X on there for X marks the spot. All right, so I'm going to bring this down. And this, like I said, I just want to do a little quick test text to show you what I'm talking about. So here, I'm going to change the material over to, we're going to go to leather. This is not real leather, but we'll go with, like, say, this setting here. That should suffice. Select my text, fill engrave. We'll go with that gold right there. It'll be about right to give me a nice little tan. So once you line it up, the circle typically, if you were focused on the surface of the jig, that circle is going to be accurate, but you're going to want to put your mark on there. And then, like I said, always confirm it using framing. All right, and we're going to start that right there. So that's going to put that X right there on the top of the ball. All right, so we got that done. I'm going to update without moving anything. I'm going to update the image just to give you guys an idea of how accurate the camera is on here. It does a really good job. So you can see right there, I updated the image. You can barely see the bottom of the X protruding out from under there. So if I move this, there's the X. So I'm going to hit the undo button. So the camera works really well, but if it's something really small and you want those real minute differences to matter, make sure you frame before you send it. All right, so moving back over to the pet tag now. I'm going to select the pet tag. I'm going to go ahead and autofocus the machine, let it move down and align itself. Like I said, the text for each one of my designs, when I brought it over into Make It software, I left the text up here. You can engrave it using the Lumos, or if you want to do it while you're cutting, you can do that. Either way, just when you're setting everything up, be sure to either turn that layer on or turn that layer off. So once you get it in there, like I said, there's going to be a slight little variation possibly with the shape. But before you go to moving anything, I would confirm that it's not accurate before I went to moving it. And so, like with this one right here, we'll make Biscuit a little tag here. So I'm going to pull this in, move my text over there. I want to change this material here over to like some anodized metal. That looks about right. And then we're going to change the text to a fill engrave. Right there looks about right. And I'm going to put the text on here and get it to where it's the size and shape that I want it to be. And I'm going to use the shapes that you can see in the jig file for my alignment. And once I get it where I want it, then I'm going to frame and visually inspect it. See, that looks pretty good, but I'm going to be honest with you, I think I want it a little larger. So I'm going to stretch the text this way, maybe pull it just a little bit out here. So we'll try to line this up again. All right, and so the cool thing about this machine is even though I've moved it, the framing will reset and I can still go by my frame. All right, so I need to go just a little bit to the left here. Now, one thing that you can do, once you get your text where you want it, you can just lock it down. We'll go about 2 more millimeters or so to the left. All right, so that is exactly where I want it. I'm gonna go ahead and send this over to the machine. All right, so there we go. And without moving anything, guys, we'll go ahead and refresh the image just to give you an idea of the camera accuracy with the machine again. And there you go. So not 100% accurate as far as camera alignment goes, but it's really close. So there's the engrave that we did on that one. And if I take and move the text, you'll see there it is right there. So not a bad job, not a bad job at all. And you can just, like any of these things, I can take and swap them out for another one. Like say if we wanted to do the PU leather patch, let's put one of those on there. All right, so I got the leather patch on there. I'm gonna hit the refresh button. What this should do is basically it's gonna pull up a picture of the piece that we've got in there now. And there you see that we've got this second jigs in there with the patch on it. Like I said, well, guys, with this system, there's not a lot of a learning curve. The biggest things you're going to have to remember is you're going to need a larger machine to be able to cut these out. That's the only caveat. If the Lumos is the only machine you have, then you may have to outsource some help from a friend that has a bigger machine. Now, you only need a machine with an area big enough to cut this. So you could literally do it with the WeCreat, the 10 watt, the 20 watt, the 45 watt, 40 watt, whatever you got, you can do it. Now, the only big difference is going to be if you have a lesser powered machine. Let's say you have the 10 watt WeCreat machine. I forgot what thing's called. Don't have one of those. But you might want to use either 3mm material like some basswood or something like that. Or you could even use cardboard in a pinch if you needed to. So that's going to be the big variable, is depending on what machine you have to cut these parts out with. You may have to change your material. Now, you can do the text on here. You can do it one of two ways. You could either put the text on there during the cut when you're cutting out the shape, or you can wait until you get it in here, open up the file that comes with it, the WeCreat file that I include, and use that text to put the text on there that way. It's a personal preference as far as that goes. Either approach works, but the text is on both the Lightburn cutout files as well as the Make It software kind of go by jig files. There may be some slight adjustment to the files once you get everything in there. Keep in mind the camera is going to be focus dependent. So if you have an object like say the baseball here and you focus on the baseball, your image may be skewed to where everything doesn't look like it's lined up. So I would say for the flatter items, the camera works really, really well. But if all else fails, guys, if it just doesn't look right, depend on your framing. Make sure your framing is correct and go by that, because framing is never going to lie to you. The camera can give you a little bit of a skewed view based on the height of the engrave. So that's really all there is to the kit. It's not that extensive. I do have other softwares as well, other kits that I've built for this to give you the idea of how it works. If you want to go through those, I'll drop some of the links to those down in the description as well. And I'm also going to drop the link to the file in my Etsy shop. Like I said, I do sell them, but I keep them affordable, but you know, that helps me pay me back for the time that it took to retrofit that file for this. And something else that I've done also is I have made an adapter for my fiber laser so that I can use these same jig files here. I can use them over here on my fiber laser as well. So if you have another machine that has a 25-25 spacing on the board, you can also use this little jig plate adapter here to use them with that machine as well. And I'll drop that in there with them. So because the system was made for the Lumos, of course, it's going to be that size as far as the work area goes. So you can't really do any larger items with it. There you have it, guys. It's a quick, easy upgrade for your machine. Like I said, you can make them using your scraps. If you're like me, you have plenty of scraps sitting around, and it doesn't take a really big piece of scrap to come up with a piece of material this size. Cut those things out, a little bit of wood glue and some time, and you got yourself a really nice, repeatable jig setup, and you're not spending a bunch of money. Like I said, the time that it takes to do them is really going to be your biggest expense because most of the materials you can use regular materials, but I prefer to use scraps. So there you go, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, follow the channel, hit the bell, notification, all that good stuff. And until next time, be safe and have a good day.